I began a journey. Not a physical journey, but a journey of ideas. I wanted to find out and to ask the question, what is the vision of the Israeli right to the Israeli-Arab conflict? It all started after a meeting with a friend of mine who lives in Tel Aviv, an ex-leftist friend of mine. And when we finished our meeting, he told me, okay, Sara, I understand that the two-state solution in its classical pattern is over. It's dead, it's an imaginary. And I understand that disengagement in Judea and Samaria, as we did in Gaza, is a suicide. But what do you have to offer? What can you bring to the table? And I found myself, who grew up in a very strong ideological environment, I found myself speechless, answerless. I started to stutter, and he didn't want to challenge me. He wanted to be with me. He really wanted answers, and I didn't have the answers. So at that moment, I understood that there's a huge vacuum in the Israeli reality. And if the Israeli right believes in its values and believes he needs to lead this country, then he needs to find the answers. And he needs to supply the solutions or the models for the future of this conflict in addition to every other issue. We are now only in defense, and we need to switch into offense. We need to supply roadmap and not only oppose the two-state solution, which is a very important thing, but there's another level we need to go through. I went to this journey from the point of view that this land is our land. And there's a reason why we are here in the land of Israel and not in Uganda. And the reason is not only Tel Aviv, but also Hebron and Beit El. And when we're speaking about the future, we don't need to speak about the new Middle East. And we don't need to speak about ideal solution. But we do need to take responsibility and offer fundamental and complex answers to different questions. When I started the journey, I put 4 guidelines and conditions. The first one is that Israel needs a new direction. The two-state solution is dead. It's irrelevant. I think it's dangerous, both on the ideological level and on the security level. But even if you're not born in Kiryat Arba, where I was born, you can see it's dead. There are approximately 100,000 people, Jews, lives beyond, outside the what's called settlement blocks. Can you imagine a reality of evacuating 100,000 people out of their houses? It's immoral, and it's not practical. The second guideline was that there is no impossible solution. Why? Because if you went back on time 40 years ago, you could see that the two-state solution was sounded not only not practical, but extreme and impossible. For 40 years, the only solution that was on the table, the only solution was talked about, is the two-state solution. For 20 years, we were actually negotiating, Israel was actually negotiating in order to reach to this point of two-state solution. It didn't start in 1993 in Oslo Accords. It started even before 1967. Who denied the UN proposal on 1947? I guess you know the answer. The third condition was that every program that I included in this project need to answer fundamental questions. You can answer whatever you'd like, but you cannot ignore different segments like demography, civil rights, human rights, the international aspect, the Jewish identity of Israel. Different questions that you can answer. And the fourth condition was that there is no status quo. Because there are people, lots of people here in Israel, who says, my program is to keep the situation as is. And I'm saying this is tactics. That's not strategy. That's not a long-term strategy. And I was looking for something more vision. I had two goals in this journey. The first one is to think out of the box. To think out of the box, not like we used to think the last 40 years. To open your minds, to change the conversation, to change the discourse. Even if you won't find the perfect solution, but you'll think differently. To understand that reality is not black and white. Reality is not only one-state solution or two-state solution. There's a lot of gray in between, and this is the gray I'm talking about. And in order to deal with a complex reality, you need to think differently, and you need to have complex solutions. The other goal that I had is not to sit in one room and reach the perfect solution of the right, one solution, no. Is to bring a basket and just put inside different programs that all of them are looking to the future in order to deal with the conflict. You can combine different fragments of the programs, you can combine the programs, you can take one from here and one from here, but you don't need to have one solution on the table. You can have 10, like I brought. At the end, I can share with you 4 conclusions that I take from this journey. The first conclusion is there are no immediate solutions. When my son wants a candy, he wants a candy now, okay? But in reality, especially in the stormy Middle East, to have immediate solutions is not only a mistake, but it might be a suicide. The other one, we are moving from a solution-based mode of thinking to one that's based on paradigms and models. Why? Because it enables us more flexibility and more complexibility. For example, take the partial annexation model. There are a lot of people talking about the partial annexation model, as Naftali Bennett, Yoaz Hendel, different people, and they're not putting the same program. They do talk about same principles. How much to annex? It changes from one program to another, but you put on the table a model, not a precise program. The third conclusion is to improve the life of the individual, to improve the economy, to build more industrial areas, mutual industrial areas, to reduce checkpoints. All of the people I interviewed mentioned the checkpoint as a wrong point. And the fourth is most of the plans are one-sided. I see that there's a huge disconnect between two populations. And if we want to continue living here in this very tiny piece of land together, we need to find opportunities to talk. We need to find opportunities to dialogue. And not with the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is a corrupted, terror-supporting organization. If we want to succeed in the mission of living together, we need to find local leadership, preferably people who lived before the Oslo Accords and they know a different reality like not like we have now. So at the end of the day, I started a process It's a process. It's not gonna be, we're not gonna find a solution from today to tomorrow. It's a process. It's not simple, but this is our life. And we chose to live our life here in the stormy Middle East, in this jungle. And my journey, which is our journey, has just begun.